What is the deal with people tearing their clothes and being naked when they're sad?
So the last verse in chapter 3, it says, the couriers went out impelled by the king's command while the decree was issued at the citadel of Susa, and while the king and Haman sat down to drink, the city of Susa was in confusion. I thought that was an interesting detail. I think this is when they actually make the decree to go kill all the Jews. So Haman, he made the decree to go have everybody bow down. Mordecai fails to do that, pisses off Haman. Haman goes back to the king. He's like, I need that ring back. I got a second thing we need to do. And that's to kill the Jews. And everybody's confused.
Yeah.
So was the decree for like on this day, like you can do this, or what? Because
So what they did starting in 7, they're like casting lots to see when exactly this is going to happen.
That's what the lots are for.
Yeah, that's what the pur, which later they named
a holiday, right?
Yeah, they named the holiday after that because they're like, joke's on you. So that's how they decided the month. It was like after the 12th month, so it's still going to be a while until this happened.
Right.
And
it's a lot of kingdom, you know. You gotta get the word out to everybody that says, "Hey,
these people.
Next year, your neighbor." You know. So, but I love how it mentioned that people were just confused at this. Like, why are we killing Joe down the street?
Yeah.
He's the one he's a butcher. He does a good job at cutting the meat. He knows exactly, you know, the cut I like.
And one thing that I find interesting in that is just the fact that because the king decreed that they were going to be wiped out, the Jewish people were just going to be like, okay, bummer. Like,
well, they are mad. You do see it later.
Yeah, you see that they're mad, but it's like
they don't know what
the
to do.
decree is they can't fight back, and they're like, all right, I guess this is it. We have 12 months or whatever to do whatever we're doing.
What if you were in their shoes, like in that situation, like literally waiting for your death at this point, like before they canceled the decree? How would you respond or feel about basically waiting for your impending doom? Because they were confused. It's like, how would you react?
Yeah. Well, I think about not necessarily me specifically because I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, and so we're the peacemakers. So and one characteristic we have is we're very complacent, and we'll like, okay, I guess
what?
The peacemaker on the Enneagram.
Enneagram?
Yeah.
What is an Enneagram?
It's a personality test. It's really great.
I'm a
recommend it.
I'm a 6.
All right, cool. I'll go look it up. I don't know.
You should do it.
It's unfortunate. I hate personality tests, and it's unfortunately very good.
It's very.
Is it one of those like you read it and you're just like, that's me?
Yeah, I'm like,
and like
who's been spying on my
not
life?
in a super vague way, but in an actually decently specific way. That's why I hate it so much. Because it actually worked.
Very good.
I hate Myers.
As a psychology major, I have a degree in psychology.
As a psychology degree recipient.
Y'all! Praise God.
I'm the only. I'm the college student here, technically.
I graduated with a 2.58 GPA.
That's what's up.
C's get degrees.
They do.
Legit. So.
They do?
Anyways.
Right?
Yeah. I put it on. And Fergie.
Queen material. That reminds me of that George Bush clip where I think it was was it like Trinity University or something? He gave a speech at a graduation, and he's like, for all you A students and yada yada yada, all you B students yada yada yada, and all you C students, you too can become president. And I just thought that was a great clip.
Yes.
But
look, Mom made it. Anyways, so I think about people, like specifically people in America today. If somebody high in power were to decree something like that, there would be mass chaos, and people would be like, heck no. No, we'll leave, or no, and there'd just be violence everywhere, and it'd be really bad. But seeing how, like, even with the Hebrew people back in Egypt, it's like they could have easily, like, they could have overpowered the Egyptians, I think, because just of their mass numbers. Like, that's why they made that decree or whatever to get rid of all the baby boys, because they're becoming too many and they can overpower. Like, even the Egyptians were recognizing that could happen, but it was this mindset of enslavement, I guess, or this mindset of being put lower, where it just gave him this mindset of hopelessness and feeling like, okay, this is how it is. And I don't know exactly how I would react in that situation, but I just think it's interesting that just because somebody in high power was saying that over them, like, y'all can't do anything about it, they were like, okay. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah. It's not really an answer.
It's so out. It's so out of our grid that I don't expect like a solid answer for that. I feel like I'd just be in such awe and disbelief of the situation, and I wouldn't react for a while. I would just hope it all figure itself out, which it did.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to do. I literally can't do anything, because I don't know how practical it was for them to do the whole escape plan, move out, get out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like part of me would be paranoid, but if the confusion was. If the confusion was we finally found a safe, happy place to settle, and people are starting to get used to that, all of a sudden now there's this decree and it's not something you would expect from your king.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at what they've been doing in the past, because he's not the first Persian king. There've been lots of them who've kept this culture of tolerance, I guess, and so maybe that's why they're confused. So I'd be in the little paranoid, but kind of in the same shoes that you're in, Nick.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So we get to chapter 4.
Yeah.
And then what happens here? It's Esther figures out what's going on, and then we really start to see the drama between Esther, Haman, Mordecai, and then our puppet king, who passes around the ring. So now Esther's figuring out what's going on. I highlighted something here in the middle. It's verse 11. It's like, all the king's servants and people of the king's provinces know that for any man or woman who comes to the king in the inner court is not summoned. This is where I think this is where Esther starts doing that weird appearance before the king.
It's right before that, I think.
So
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is Mordecai talking to Esther about, like, here's the deal. You need to do that thing I told you not to do, like, now.
Yeah. And then
they're like two, I think, okay, am I not mistaken? I think they're like two decently famous verses or like phrases that, if anything, I just hear in worship songs a lot, or just random like moments, or a pastor comes up to the stage and like says random stuff. There was a verse 14 at the end. It's like, who knows whether or not, who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this. I feel like that last little bit, for such a time as this, I've heard, if anything, in our church, like, all the time. I don't know if that's something y'all have noticed. And then
I did highlight that. I think that's one of the one of those, I guess, say, God moments. Yeah. Where Mordecai's pointing out something that the Lord set up. And it's just kind of like, are you sure you're not here for a different reason, not just because you're pretty? And I think that's kind of in the story, that's one of those turning points. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, anyway.
And then the other one was at the end of 16. I just think this is a really cool mentality, and just shows how great Esther was, and why I hate that people don't like her sometimes, is because of verse 16, where at the end she says, like, if I perish, I perish kind of deal, where she's like willing to do what she feels like God has called her to do, and if that does result in death, then that was her role. I just think it's very valiant, and you don't see that often in the Bible at all, let alone like everyday life. I just think it shows how much of a woman of faith that she really was, that she was willing to see God's plan and see that Mordecai was right, that she was probably here for this specific purpose, to save the Jews in this moment. And she was like, well, if I botch it, or if I do it well and that results in my death, then I serve my purpose.
Yeah.
I like how in verse 13 Mordecai says, not in a mean way, but he says, do you not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than the other Jews? Being like, hey, you're not gonna escape this, even if you're in there. And then verse 14, for if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise from the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And just the idea of God doesn't need us.
Excuse me.
And not in a we're insignificant sort of way. Like, he wants to use us, obviously. but like he would have risen
Well, there's,
up
like,
somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily these people. Like if she didn't do something, all those Jewish people probably would have died.
Yeah.
But God would have still delivered the Jews through somebody else. It was just whether or not she was willing to do that. And I love how obviously she was willing to do that for her people, and just the fact that God wants to partner with us to do stuff when he could have just been like, oh no, smite.
Yeah. Good. I feel like that kind of idea has come up in like random free will versus predestination conversations I've had with people, which you don't necessarily want to go into now. But a way I like to think about that kind of stuff is like God has a plan and like things will be done. It's your choice whether or not you're the person that gets the name in like the script. Like I accomplished this thing. And I think that's basically, like you said, what Mordecai saying to Esther. It's like, no matter what, the Jews are going to live. This moment determines whether or not you get a book or not. You know?
Yeah.
And it's not all about the glory, but anytime that kind of moment happens, it is an opportunity for you to see how great God is and grow closer to him by being a significant figure that people can look up to and try and live their life off of.
And also, even if, like you're saying, it's not all about the glory, like she was going to save all these people. Like her actions directly influenced thousands of other people. Because, yeah, the Jews would have lived, but not necessarily these ones. These ones would have perished.
Yeah.
So just how much influence her actions have over other people when God, like, has a high calling on your life. And, like, it's going to affect other people. And it's just whether or not you want to be willing to do that, even if it's hard. And she's like, I could die by doing this, but...
Yeah.
And I also love how she is like, all right, you guys go fast. We're also going to fast. And
it's a family effort.
Yeah, it's not just you fast and pray for me, or it's not, I'll just do it. Like, we're all going to do this together.
Goodness, as a people, you know. Yeah, I wasn't going to touch on the free will thing, and you kind of already said it. But it was this idea of Esther being the one to do it, and, you know, the Jews being delivered another way. I think Mordecai, you know, he knew his history. He looked back at what just happened in Babylon. He looked back at what happened in Egypt. You know, and he knows that the Lord's going to do something. Now the timeline's going to change, and the events are going to change. Mordecai could still die.
Yeah.
But I think he knows that history, just through history, that the Lord's going to do something. It's just this way. This way looks like the best way, and you just see that in your daily life is you could follow the Lord to the T, or you could choose something else. It's just you might miss a blessing, or you might run into something that's like, I didn't ordain that for you, but you chose to go that way. And I like taking it from the free will angle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is, I do like that he mentioned that. But cool. You got anything else for that one? Because the next part is like the actual cracking down. Next few chapters are cracking down on Haman.
Yeah.
I guess my one comment was, what is the deal with people tearing their clothes and being naked when they're sad or upset? That's like such a is that a cultural deal?
I don't know. Maybe we can ask Colton.
I think it's a cultural deal because it seems like in the entire Bible up until Jesus' death, because I don't know if any of the apostles did it when they were like being persecuted or whatever, but like when Jesus was dying, the rabbis like tore their clothes, like how dare you blaspheme, and then Mordecai gets basically nude. He's wearing like a sack, you know, he's Tarzan.
I think the sackcloth and ashes,
that's probably some significance.
That was a custom. I don't know, maybe we can ask Colton. Yeah. He probably knows. He's practically a Jew.
He won that award last week.
He did win that award.